Let me introduce you. We have a whole bunch of people who have been working with us at the Blaze all day today. And let me introduce you to the people that we're going to spend the next few minutes with. Buck Revell, he is a former Associate Deputy Director of the FBI. Erik Stakelbeck, he is a correspondent and terrorism analyst for CBN News. Also, Steve Emerson is there. He's the Islamic terrorism expert, one of the bravest men in America. Diana West, syndicated columnist and author of upcoming book, American Betrayal, The Secret Assault on Our Nation's Character. And Patrick Poole, he is a terrorism correspondent, PJ Media, and very, very insightful on this. And all of you have been very helpful today, and I appreciate it. Let me, well, since you're here, Buck, let me just start with you. I've never seen anything. You were part of the Oklahoma City. You were running, FBI around the time of Oklahoma City, were you not?
Well, actually, I had retired just before Oklahoma City,
okay.
But I was following it closely.
There was. Have you ever seen them shut down a city like this before?
Only after 9/11 because of the hazards of the falling buildings. The Manhattan area shut down, but the rest of New York City didn't.
Yeah, and it wasn't. I mean, it was lower Manhattan because I was there. It was just lower Manhattan where it was all really happening. And this is Boston. I mean, it's one guy. Is this sending any kind of bad signals?
Well, obviously, you don't want citizens caught in a crossfire, and with the explosive devices, it broadens the potential danger area. But the whole city, I would think that they could find a more restrictive location to shut down.
Yeah. Erik and Steve, let me ask both of you this question. And we'll start with you, Erik. Chechnya is a really nasty. I mean, I don't think people, if you don't follow this, you don't understand how nasty Chechnya really is and the jihadists there. And what I want to ask you is if you could just both give me your thoughts on where these guys come from, but then also, what do you make of the family and what they were saying and the father's not even veiled threat that there will be, all hell will break loose if they kill the second boy?
Well, number one, I'd say that is Chechnya. That is, the father, Glenn, is really a picture, a window into Chechnya writ large. As you said, it's a vicious, vicious place. Not only an exporter of terror. Look, we see Chechen jihadists in Iraq, in Afghanistan, around the globe, fighting U.S. troops even in Iraq, Afghanistan. We've seen Chechen prisoners at Guantanamo Bay. So they're exporting terror as part of this global jihad, Glenn, but they're also importing terror. Over the past 15 years or so, we've seen Arab fighters from throughout the Middle East go to Chechnya to fight alongside the Chechens against the Russians. Al-Qaeda and its ilk, they see Chechnya as part of the global jihad. It's one of their hot spots along with Somalia, Yemen, Afghanistan, etc.
These guys were bad even all the way back to, World War II with Germany. They were fighting right alongside the Nazis. Steve, can you tell me, can you give me any insight on what we're dealing with here? And do you have any idea of, we have Chechens here, but that doesn't mean they're bad people. I mean, what does your radar say about Chechen Islamic extremists here in the United States?
Well, it really hasn't risen before. The issue of Chechen terrorists in Europe and in the Middle East, I mean, if you want to get a PhD in jihad, you go to Chechnya. I mean, it's you get your internship in jihad in slitting people's throats. I mean, as you pointed out, among the nastiest, most vicious, brutal terrorist acts ever committed in this planet have been committed by Chechen terrorists. Having said that, we haven't seen Chechen terrorists on American soil, and those Chechens who have emigrated here have never evinced any radicalism, as far as I know. Now, having said that, even these kids were secular. Members of the family were secular. One uncle that was interviewed in Maryland denounced them entirely, in contrast to the other uncle. But these guys got radicalized over the last 3 years, and we're pretty close to determining how they did. And again, it wasn't just a Chechen radicalization; it was an Islamic radicalization. They became full jihadis. Equipped with suicide vests, a bomb that had ball bearings. That's very typical of a suicide vest worn by Hamas. Maybe one of them was wearing it last night. And the fact is, they bought into it. And the question is, how did they get radicalized. I don't believe it was because of the internet. I don't believe it was because they were reading books. I believe it was because of a certain mosque they were attending and the radical Islamic ideology that is taught at these mosques around the country.
All right, so let me go to Patrick, because Patrick, you tell me about the mosque that they were attending.
Well, the mosque, which the New York Times reported in Cambridge, is an affiliate of the Islamic Society of Boston, which was founded by al-Qaeda fundraiser Abdurrahman al-Amoudi, and also the chief jurist for the Muslim Brotherhood, Yusuf al-Qaradawi. They were founding trustees, and the Islamic Society of Boston is the Muslim Brotherhood here in North America, and it seems this is where these kids were radicalized. You know, I was looking at the YouTube channel of the older brother, and he has Sheikh Faiz, which is basically the Australian version of Anwar Alaki. And I was looking at the younger brother's tweets here earlier today, and as far back as August, he was mentioning about the Boston Marathon, saying that people shouldn't smoke at the Boston Marathon, kind of giving an indication that this was a plot that was in the works for quite a while.
So, Diana, let me go back to the Muslim Brotherhood, because this administration has denied that the Muslim Brotherhood was bad at all. They have denied that terror even existed. They have been helping the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood leader now in Syria was living right down the street from our studios. His wife is a teacher. He was the vice president of CARE here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And he goes over, and now he's running the terror organization in Syria, you know, labeling himself a freedom fighter. It's quite remarkable how we are in bed with the Muslim Brotherhood and in bed with even Saudi Arabia in this particular case, where the president is meeting with Saudi Arabia just this week, and I think it's on the other suspect, the hospital suspect.
The hospital suspect. Well, that is the other side of this story, that, of course, while we're all transfixed by this, you know, horrific manhunt underway, the Saudi story percolates along, and I think it's very important not to let it slip away, which, with all of the emphasis on these breaking events, it's very easy to do. But I've been following it all week, and I know some of your panelists have been following it very closely, particularly Steve Emerson, and there are very disturbing patterns that we are undergoing right now that remind me of some very disturbing patterns back after 9/11, and I refer specifically to the pattern of Saudi cover-up that we can now document that took place after 9/11. And my fears in watching some of the diplomatic pressure being laid and some of the miraculous seeming ratcheting down of this hospital suspect, Abdul Rahman Ali al-Harbi, the Saudi student, really makes my antenna go up, and I want to stay focused on that in the weeks to come, in the days and weeks to come.
Buck, how do we? I was going to ask: is there any credibility left in the media anymore? Which I don't think there is, and I think everybody's being tainted now. The media is being tainted. You question, you know, who is, you know, doing what? How are they doing it? How did these guys get in? The president is. How do we hold a society together without brute force that starts to come apart at the seams, and it's intentional? I mean, the terrorists are winning at this point because we question everybody, we look at everybody, and we shut our whole cities down. How do we hold it together without brute force?
Glenn, I think we have to go back to the American standard of rule of law, the Constitution, and our process going forward under the legal standards that we have built. I don't think we ought to let the media panic us into doing things that shouldn't be done. I do think that we can't let Congress stampede the law enforcement agencies into doing things that shouldn't be done. It has to be a very intensive and ongoing effort. And you certainly can't do that by denying that there is Islamic radicalism in the United States, which is ongoing. And I think if you don't know the nature of your enemy, it's very difficult to deal with the enemy.
No, you can't fight them at all.
And I think that's been a very significant mistake by the federal government to try and take the fact that there is a small percentage of Muslims who are radicalized, who are involved in Islamist, in other words, a political Islam, and they are where the jihadists come from. And if we don't recognize that and aren't teaching that to our young police officers, to our young agents, and they understand that amongst this community there are going to be radical elements that they need to learn to deal with. Now, we should not alienate the entire Muslim population, obviously, but you need to focus on those like Major Hassan, who gave you reason to focus, but you didn't, and because you didn't want to be considered an Islamophobe.
Okay, that's where I want to go. That's where I want to go next. And Erik, I'm going to come to you right out of the chute with, because you work for, CBN, and you guys, you're not afraid to tell the truth. We're not afraid to tell the truth, but the rest of the media doesn't know the truth from their a certain body
that's
part.
Why Glenn.
Hang on.
That's why Glenn. Go ahead.
Oh, I just have to take a break, and let's pick it up there on the media is not going to change its ways, and we do not recognize terror. The Associated Press 2 weeks ago just said that they are getting rid of jihad and Islamic terrorism or Islamic jihad from their lexicon. They won't report it, and they won't use those words anymore. Well, here we are. So now where do we go? Back in a second.